We are back for another episode of Sound of Hockey's Kraken Takeaways with Darren Brown and John Barr. Hello, John. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Vibes are okay.
Not as fun after a win or when they lose, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay.
By they, I think you mean the Seattle Kraken, who fell in Game 2 to the Dallas Stars. And yeah, definitely not as fun to watch as Game 1. I don't know what it was. Something about
that.
Yeah, something about it. I think just looking at that game high level, I think they were pretty tired last night. If I'm being totally honest, I think they just look a little bit wiped out, and it's probably a good time for them to get a little bit of a break. Let's dig into what happened in this one. I thought penalties were kind of a big factor. To me, it had shades of that Game 6 with Colorado, where that one was a little different in the sense that Colorado had them just running around and they had no choice other than to take penalties. In this one, they took some undisciplined penalties. I thought Carson Soucy and Will Borgen each did something that was just a little bit off from what they normally would be, just a little bit uncharacteristic for the Kraken. They did, the first period I thought was a really good road period by all accounts, except for the fact that, Soucy did shoot the puck over the glass, which was just kind of bad luck. But that shifted the momentum a little bit there with about 4 minutes left in the period. Philip Grubauer had to be huge to get the team to the first intermission at 0-0. He did successfully do that. But then in the second period, things kind of picked up for Dallas. Is that a good assessment of how that game started, John?
Yeah, that's a good assessment. And the penalties, we talked about it after Game 6, it just breaks the flow too, right? So all the momentum. Game 6 that had a lot more penalties, and it made them tired in a way because those penalty killers were on there a lot and kind of high stress situations. So that's part of it too.
Yeah. Yep, you're right. And so then the other one that I was mentioning there, the Carson Soucy penalty that was undisciplined. He basically, Mason Marchment, who is I don't like him. I've decided I don't like Mason Marchment. Mason Marchment runs face first into Carson Soucy's shoulder and flops back to draw an interference penalty. He did get called for embellishment on that, in addition to Soucy getting an interference penalty that I don't necessarily think Soucy deserved. But if Soucy had just left it at that, it would have been fine. They would have been, 4-on-4. Instead, he goes after Marchment and pokes him on the ankle for no real reason. And that's the undisciplined part, right? He takes a penalty there, and that's kind of a turning point in the game, I think, from there. They don't score on the power play, but it's 7 seconds after the power play ends. So effectively, it is a power play goal. It was a very costly moment, I think. And then the other penalty in the period was Will Borgen. He got tied up with Dodonov behind the net, took his hand off the bottom of his stick, got Dodonov wrapped up, and easy for him to draw the penalty there. And that one did result in a power play goal.
Yeah, I think it's worth discussing if that second penalty would have been called on Soucy, or I should say if the embellishing would have been called on Marchment if it wasn't for that second penalty, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe they're like, let's just give one. We just want to give Soucy one penalty, and so then maybe to even it up, they kind of threw the Marchment to cancel out that first one. So I don't know. I think it's arguable if it was even interference. I know that they didn't give an elbow or anything like that, but it seemed a little soft, and then Marchment kind of embellished, which I think is what drew the penalty. So good on him, but he also got an embellishment. I'm not liking him either, right? Because he gave all those cross checks to Geeky in Game 1 that they didn't call any extra for, yet they call a little extra for Soucy, a one-handed poke at Marchment. I don't know.
Yeah, it was ironic.
Right? Yeah.
Totally ironic who the players were on that one for sure. Yeah, the penalties were certainly costly. They had 3 of them in the game, 3 power plays. Effectively, they equated to 2 goals for Dallas. Another costly piece is the faceoff. So faceoffs haven't been particularly good here throughout the playoffs. Again, I mean, not a good night. They had, 38% or something like that on the faceoff dot. So very poor. It's tough because it's not something that they can really just like change overnight. Players have to get better at it, and that takes a lot of time. It takes practice. It takes a lot of effort to get better at faceoffs. It's one of the reasons that a lot of people were clamoring for the Kraken to make a trade at the deadline for somebody who could win key faceoffs. Alex Wennberg was at 56% last night, but everybody else is under 50%. Ryan Donato, I think, was like 1 for 7 or 1 for 8, something like that. So it was a tough night on the dot. And the last goal, the Tyler Seguin goal, came directly off of a faceoff. Again, that's not the first time that's happened in these playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Dallas Stars had about 3 or 4 shots right off the faceoff, which is a stat that shows possession too, right? We've talked about it's not just what happens on the dot, but what happens around the dot.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were watching the game last night, even when they won it, they didn't always possess it, right? So they would win the faceoff, and then Dallas would quickly get it. We kind of talked about that on one of the power plays, but it's really been a struggle all season, not just the playoffs, but really amplified last night. And Hackstall kind of speaking today to the media was about being better at possession and kind of the other guys around the face-off that need to do a better job of kind of getting the puck back. So,
yeah, I asked him about it. The what he called out was that there were 5 face-offs that weren't won cleanly. He called them 50-50 pucks, and Dallas won all 5 of those. So that's the piece where, the other players on the ice can help win those faceoffs when it's a kind of a contested faceoff.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they got to do better. Whatever it is, they got to do better there. Interestingly, Ty Cartier scores another goal last night, so that's 2 for him in 5.
And it was a snipe. It was
a really nice goal, and it was such a confident goal too, because it's a 2-on-1 with Jordan Eberle, and the kid, the now recently turns 22-year-old kid playing in his, I think, 5th NHL game, looks off the veteran Jordan Eberle and just rockets it past Jake Ottinger. Like, what a cocky, kind of a decision there to shoot that puck. Absolutely the right decision, but man, what a rocket he has and what a goal. But so it brings us to this question of what to do with Jared McCann when he comes back. There's no real update on McCann, but what I'm sensing is that it's not like he's out super long term. I think he is working his way back. Hackstall still said there's no real timetable for him, no update, no anything. He's just back in Seattle working through his protocol. That's what he said this morning. But at some point it seems like he's going to be back. I would guess in this series. I could be wrong in that, but I would guess in this series. So if that happens, what do you do with Ty Cartier, right? Do you take him out of the lineup? I think no. I have a theory on what they should do, and I don't think they should move him down to the 4th line either. What I think they should do, John, bear with me here.
I've got a theory of what you want to do, but go for it.
I think so. I love Morgan Geekie on that kind of second line wing role, but they're struggling so much in the faceoff dot, and I think he can help a little bit. So what I would like to see, and especially because they've really whittled down the time for the 4th line, I think I'd like to see him go back to 4th line center, and then that pushes out either a Donato or a Sprong, but it kind of brings back that more dynamic 4th line, I think, with a really solid center in the middle. And then you put McCann in either on you put him back in his old spot, take Cartier off of that line with Beniers and Eberle, or you could try McCann with Wennberg and Schwartz. Either way, I think it could work. But what do you think? Was that what you were going to predict?
That's kind of what I was thinking is move Geekie back to the 4th line center. Mm-hmm. I like that idea, but the big thing is McCann's coming back in the lineup, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, and you also put him. I think you put him in the same line. So then it's like what to do with Cartier is more the question, right? Yeah. Which is kind of what you were leading down. I don't know. I'm not totally sold. I think Geekie's had a good playoff, playing as a wing,
very good playoff.
And so that is a gamble. I like where your head's at. I don't know, but the big thing is I think the power play is in dire straits right now and needs McCann back on. Even if he's not scoring, he's taking attention away from other players. So that might open up other opportunities. So as soon as he comes back, obviously he's got to get back on the power play because the power play has been anemic for Seattle for about 5 games. They haven't scored. So
yeah. Well, and penalty kill too, right? He's such a key part of the penalty kill.
Yeah.
I think Matty Beniers has been doing a good job in his spot, but I like McCann in that spot better than Beniers, at least in the current state and time. 2 days off now. So I think this could not have come at a better time. I think the team was visibly tired last night. I think they're running Philip Grubauer into the ground a little bit with the number of high danger chances they're allowing right in front of the net. And the number of times they're getting hemmed in their own zone and then losing the faceoff, right? He gets him a whistle. and then they lose the faceoff and go right back to work. Even when you're not facing shots, that's exhausting for a goalie, right? You're down in your crouch for minutes at a time. You're dropping to your butterfly. You're going post to post. You're shuffling. You're doing all this stuff. That's really tiring when the puck is in your zone for a long time. The tool that you have as a goalie is to get a whistle, get the guys to change, get the puck out of the zone. If they're not doing that, if they're not winning the face-off, then it just keeps going. So I think they're very tired. I think it's time for them to have a couple days off. So
yeah, I agree. It couldn't have come at a better time. They need the days off. There's been such high tension games too. So mentally, I think they need some time off, right? To take a little bit of a breather. Back at home, we know they haven't been extremely successful at home, but maybe this gives them an opportunity. And one thing, thinking back to conversations we've had with Alice and Lucan about adjustments that they make and resets that they make, they're really good. This team's been really good about kind of putting losses behind them, sometimes bad losses, turning the page and coming out looking like a different team, right? Looking like the team that we expect. So, yeah, I think it's great. Also, McCann, you don't know. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to come back and play game 3, but one extra day gives him one extra day of rest or whatever he's kind of dealing with or coming back from. So, couldn't have come at a better time, like I said.
Yeah. And now we have a 1-1 series. So it's funny because this is exactly the same situation we were in the Colorado series, right? Where they won game 1, lost game 2. And I think it kind of puts like a little bit of a sour taste in the mouths of fans. I had a hard time with that little phrase. But you got to be happy with it. I mean, when you consider the situation they were in there coming off of a hard fought game 7, if you told me that they were going to go into Dallas and split it, I'd be very happy with it. I still am. I think fans should be very happy with their current situation. And they've proven that being in this situation, they can end up winning the series. So here's hoping that they can turn this one around quickly and kind of forget about it.
Totally agree. Totally agree with everything you said. The split was exactly what we wanted heading in, especially what it felt like they were handed a raw deal there with only 1 day break between the Colorado and game 1. So I think it's great, great. They're in a great position, right? The loss stings, right? Because, 2-0 would have been really nice. But this is the playoffs. It's not supposed to come easy.
That's right. All right. That's all we have. Thank you, John, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the future videos we make. Game 3 is coming in just a couple of days. So for Sound of Hockey, Darren Brown and John Barr. Cheers.